Out of all the people in the property space, deal sources are the people that I probably need the most and frustrate me even more.
We sometimes don't like investors.
Let me show you this. This is the deal breakdown. If the deal looks good, if you give me the okay, I'm gonna offer on it today. What do you reckon?
I think
Welcome back to another episode of the PBK Property Podcast. Myself is Kazy, your host, and each and every week I bring you an amazing special guest. This week I've got my guy. I have known him for the last 3 years, and would you believe he's still only 22? Founder of the Gen Z Club, founder of DJ Property Solutions, and all-round property entrepreneur. Denzil, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you, bro. How are you?
You got a smooth name, you know, Denzil Jones. That sounds like you're made to do big things.
Yeah, and I was named after Denzel Washington. My mum named me after him, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think you kind of kept that same smooth energy that Denzel delivers?
Yeah, I try to here and there.
Okay, you make sure you can perform under pressure.
Yeah.
I see it, man. I saw the vision from Mummy, and I think she's done very well. As I mentioned in that intro, like for somebody, the reason I mentioned your age is because I feel like you've done a lot in a short space of time in the property and entrepreneurial space. Why property?
I think the reason I chose property as a vehicle is because I think no matter what profession you go into, everyone always wants to end up in property. If you want to be a footballer, make your money, property. So I think with me, my philosophy in life is always like, what do I want to do and how can I do it in the shortest period of time, but obviously do it the most efficiently. So my goal is always like, okay, cool, let me get into property, but let me learn about it now. So by the time I'm 25, 26, I'll have built my portfolio. And that's kind of what doubled into property. As well as, so for those who know my story, mum's an accountant. One day I saw her looking at some sheets. I was a bit nosy. Someone had like a lot of figures. It ended up being like a property entrepreneur. So I asked her, mum, like, can you put me in touch with this person? And then from there, that was like my first mentor. Literally was bringing me to networking events, teaching me about the mindset, all of that stuff. And then that's kind of like what doubled my journey into property. And yeah, what happened today, yeah.
I think that's a great energy to have, though, from a young age to actually say that, like, I don't want to focus on playing FIFA or playing whatever else is currently popping at the time. That I see money and I don't just look at it to say, oh, that looks good, I want to be like them. It's how do I get that knowledge to allow me to enhance my own journey. So they took you to networking events. What else did you learn from your first mentor?
Yeah, I'll say there's 4 key things I learned from him. So first thing, before we even spoke about property, he always used to teach me about the mindset. So it's about, everyone has the same goal to become successful, but it's about what type of person you have to become to be successful. Like people will have a goal of making this amount per year, but then one person will have one work ethic and another person will have another. So I think the first thing was more so about the mindset, about adopting the principles of a high achiever. Second thing was more so about networking. He always said that proximity is power. So put yourself in touch with people who are doing what you want to do. And that's why even till today, like every year I'm always like investing in myself into like different mastermind groups or whatever. Because I always want to be around people the best. Or for example, if it's my nutrition, I'll pay for a good PT. If it's for this, like I always want to be around the best. Third thing, and this is what I think helped me the most in my journey, is he told me that property is a people's game. So like a lot of people out there go and find deals on portals. There's nothing wrong with it. Like I still find deals on portals, but he's always like, the cheat code is when you can actually go to people directly, because one, when you do one deal with someone, so many different referrals will come from that person. And secondly, when you can actually understand someone's pain points and find a solution, they're a lot more likely to do a deal and get it potentially discounted rather than just going it on open market where everyone else is bidding on a property. So that's that. And I think the last thing is just like always thinking long term. I think, and I probably fell into this trap a little bit growing up, but I was always like quick money. Like how can I, like what can I do to get quick money, whatever. So I think he always told me like Denzel's a long-term game. Like a lot of people are successful for a short period of time, then they fall off, but you got to think, how can you build something that's sustainable? So I think, yeah, they're the main principles that I learned from him, to be fair.
And do you think having a mentor at an early stage was instrumental to you being a success?
Yeah, definitely, because I think I would say the success leaves clues, right? So it's like, if someone's done what I want to achieve, why not learn from them? Why not like fast track my journey from learning from them? And that's why, as I mentioned, yeah, every year, even if it's not property related, I would invest in like a different mentor, and I would always see my business or my personal development grow. Now, I don't necessarily just say like a generic course, because I think that's just information. And now there's a lot of information online. But if it's someone who can actually work with you one-to-one with your best interest at heart, who they don't necessarily make money from just the teaching, they make money from actually doing what they're doing, and they can actually help you, then yeah, 100%. I think everyone should have that mentor, that figure that's gonna, even if it's not a mentor, but another thing I like to do is like I surround myself with people who are like 5 or 10 steps ahead of me, so I'm always learning from them rather than trying to be the smartest person in the room, if that makes sense. So.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think for those that are looking at a mentor, you touched on something there that's very important, and that's making sure your mentor is actually doing the things that they're teaching you to do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of mentors, you know, we're not going to name them, but a lot of people just teach without actually having a physical track record. So I think just making sure you do your own due diligence. If you are looking for a mentor, go and kind of check them out, speak to people they've worked with, check they are still actually delivering. A lot of information is actively available on Companies House, so you can see if the people are, you know, the real deal and they are able to help you. You mentioned obviously sort of coming, good home, mum being an accountant, but also, you know, you wanted to be an entrepreneur, and there's almost a clash there between the journey of an entrepreneur versus the more standard education route. But you went to university. Why do you think you went to university as opposed to just going straight into setting up your own business?
Yeah, good question. I think, do you know what it is? So, see, my mum did her best growing up, but we wasn't necessarily financially stable. So I think entrepreneurship was always my first route as to, okay, cool, how can I make money to not only help myself, but help the family? That was my first route. But then on the opposite side, my dad, he's very traditional. And although I didn't live with him growing up, but he was always like there supporting me and stuff. So although my mum's naturally entrepreneurial as well, my dad's more so traditional. So I think partly it was mostly to make him happy, like, okay, entrepreneurship. But I always thought that if I go into the university route, I'm always just going to be resourceful. So with me, it's always about being resourceful with whatever I can do. So my goal wasn't, obviously, yeah, I got my degree, which I'm happy for, but my goal wasn't necessarily...
What did you study?
I did business management, entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So my goal wasn't necessarily just to get the best degree, but it was more so like, what can I do in uni to make it an ROI into my personal life? So I think from there, I learned a lot of independence. From there, I was networking. So with me, I've always been a guy that I'd have all my friends who I go out with, but then on a weekday, I'll be with the geeks, like what people call the geeks. I'll be learning from them. I made a lot of good connections. Like I remember meeting people who their parents are like big people in like certain countries and stuff. So yeah, I think for me, I went there more so, one, because of my dad, obviously, and two, I think just for the network to grow the independence. And I said to myself as well, me starting uni, because I'm like an August baby, so I was like, I think I was turning 18. I was like, 3-year course, I'll be 21 when I finish. Like, what's the worst that can happen type of thing. So,
and in hindsight, given the opportunity, would you go to university again?
100%, because I met lifelong friends from there. I learned a lot about independence. I started, so for example, you mentioned, I started the Gen Z club when I was in uni. Even my property journey, I think, so I got my first rent-to-rent in my first year of uni. So a lot of things, I think, accelerated my journey whilst being in uni. So yeah, definitely, I was saying.
That's great. I think a lot of people undervalue sometimes. They come out of university and be like, well, I didn't go on to that grad scheme, I didn't get the job. But they don't see the transferable skill set and the life skills that they learn from actually going through and finishing something start to finish.
100%.
I think it's great that you still see the value in that. So I'm trying to think, shall we start with your rent-to-rent or should we start with your... Let's start with rent-to-rent. So obviously you were at university, and what year was it in your university that you actually took on your first rent-to-rent property?
So yeah, my first year. So how it kind of started property, I would say. So with my first mentor, I used to bring him deals, and he used to do like assisted sales and all those type of deals. And I said to him, like, how can I now start making more money from this? And then he introduced me to co-sourcing, which is when I wasn't compliant at the time, finding deals to him or whatever, and then get paid a fee from it. Then he told me about the rent-to-rent model. And again, he said to me, like, okay, with the rent-to-rent model, that's where you can get more of a passive income. Well, not completely passive, but passive income from it. So in my first year of uni, I remember I said to myself, okay, cool, what can I do that every single month I'm going to get a regular income and don't have to worry about, because I didn't want to work a job in uni because I wanted to focus on, obviously, the degree. So again, I didn't have necessarily enough capital to start my rent-to-rent, but I've always been that's quite resourceful. So I remember my uncle at the time, mum's brother, he's dentist, I reached out to him, I was like, okay, cool, I've learned about this rent-to-rent strategy. I'm going to literally go out, find a deal to Nottingham. I'm going to manage it, look after it. Can you help me fund it? So we kind of went like half and that, got some units there. But obviously, my first year of uni was COVID. So although it was good for, I'll say, the first 5 to 6 months, luckily we had a break clause. But after the break clause, we gave them all back because it was too, it was a service accommodation as well. So there was rules like only one person can stay in the property, even though it was a 2-bed and things like that. So it didn't necessarily work out. But then that kind of made me transition back into sourcing, because I kind of abandoned sourcing for a little bit. And then
so if we speak about rent-to-rent for a moment, then, so how many did you actually take on in Nottingham?
So we had 2 units in Nottingham, to both service accommodations. and then was in the process of taking another one on in Lincoln. But then again, that's when kind of COVID and stuff happened. So we kind of said, let's leave and focus on the two in Nottingham. Yeah.
And in terms of actually sort of closing those deals, where did you learn the skill set to be able, like, where did you learn about rent to rent?
Yeah, so I think I mainly learnt it from, as I mentioned, my first mentor. But I think in terms of closing it, he always taught me, one, is a numbers game, and two, it's about sales. So I think when it comes to sales, it's not just about, I think what the mistake a lot of people do now is just try and pitch an idea to a landlord or pitch an idea to an agent. But I kind of went on like a process. So for example, instead of me just saying, I want to do a rent to rent, I'll be like, okay, cool. So how long has the property been in the market for? Okay, cool. Have you tried to rent it out to this? Yeah, but I've been struggling with da-da-da-da. Okay, cool. What's the landlord looking for? And then I'll kind of like build that rapport, and then I'll offer my solution. So I remember, I think it was one day after a lecture, actually, I went to an agent on the high street, and I kind of like had that rapport with them. And then from there, that's how I got my first unit. So just from an agent, and then got the units. He funded them. It was going well. And I think with that as well, I learned a lot about how to actually manage the property, getting the right management team in place and stuff like that. And it was really good because, again, you're in uni as well, so you can bring people to the apartment when it's not booked. So, yeah, it was a good experience, to be fair.
Good time. Yeah, I definitely think, like, obviously you're the man. If you're at uni and you just got a spare apartment, you're gonna be the guy. Talking like being the guy amongst your friends, what was your attitude from like your peers? Like, did they look at you as if to say like, this is crazy how you doing it? Was there like maybe jealousy to be like, oh, well, you got the money from your uncle anyway? Or do you think like you helped to elevate the people around you? What was the general consensus?
Yeah, I think even till today, all my friends can probably even admit to it. Like, I'm always one that I always want to put my friends on. So for example, like a lot of my friends have different businesses, whether it's marketing, whatever. I'll try and get them clients or help them or give them ideas. So funny enough, that first mentor I had, I remember I could have had that mentor by myself, but I think I got like 6 of my friends to try and come to his office to like learn from him as well. But then after like a month, they all like dropped out. So just literally me one-on-one. So they kind of knew that I was trying to help them as well. I don't think they was jealous because at the time, I know right now like it's kind of like hyped, everyone's doing it. But at that time, not many people like young was doing it. So I got a lot of ratings for that, should I say. So it was good in that sense. I didn't really feel any envious, to be fair. I think people were more so proud of me and wanting to learn from me, or they also got inspiration saying, okay, cool, this is actually possible, because I thought you have to be like, and this was my initial feeling as well, you have to be like 40, 50 years old to get into property. So people kind of like got inspiration from that, to be fair. So
that's good. And I guess with, like you said, you're doing on the weekend, maybe you're doing IKEA runs to furnish things. You're, having to deal with tenants. Your friends are just talking about, there's a party in this block, there's that going on. How did you manage to stay focused and not get sidetracked? Yeah,
so this is actually a debate I was having with my friends the other day about the whole work-life balance thing. And I think everyone who's achieved some level of success, there has to be like a period of time where it's like strictly like just grammar. So I would even say like from like halfway through my first year of uni to I would say my third year, I was so boring. Like, I think I probably went out like twice. I remember there was even a point where I went to uni with a lot of my friends, by the way, but there was a point where I saw my friends probably like twice in the whole year. I'm not saying I advised that, but that's what allowed me to kind of like get ahead, because I was literally purely just focused. So in terms of balance, I like enjoyment as well, but I think that period of time, I just said to myself, if you dedicate yourself to 2 or 3 years of hard work, you can now leave uni not having to work. You can have a successful business. And that's what eventually was able to happen from doing that. So I think, although it was hard at the time, I feel like certain people probably thought, does he think he's too cool to go out, but I don't regret it at all, because I learned a lot about myself. Obviously, it was hard times as well. I felt lonely at times, but it was worth it in the end, because I had friends and family around supporting me.
And I think it's like, what do you want to be here for? Do you want to be here for a good time, or do you want to be here for a long time?
Yeah.
And, there's certain experiences that you can kind of have at any point. Like, you could be like, it would have been great to go out for Freshers Week and do X, Y, or Z. But then, do you want to go out for Freshers Week? Or do you want to go out on a private jet at a point? Or do you want to have a party on a yacht? Or do you want to have a party, you know what I mean, above a bookies? And I think 100%. Sometimes you just got to look at how do your actions match your long-term goals?
Yeah.
And having that mentality of short-term sacrifice for long-term gain.
Long-term gain. Yeah.
So whilst you're at university, you also founded the Gen Z Club.
Yeah.
So what is the Gen Z Club in a nutshell?
Yeah, so the Gen Z Club essentially is an organisation that we made to, one, bring entrepreneurs together, because we thought that a lot of Gen Zs, again, didn't have the right space to network. It kind of started off with me and Poku was in that Starbucks, just bringing people together. I'm very extrovert, so I've always been the one to bring people together. Then we thought, you know what, let's just do regular events where we can actually bring people together and things like that. So it was more so to create a space where we can actually bring people together, they can network. And what started off as just like networking events went on to us like working with like companies such as like Barclays, Savills, where they would sponsor us to get data, insights, marketing, on Gen Z. So Gen Z's been between typically the ages of like 15 to 25. It kind of changes as the years go on. So yeah, so we'll do like conferences like on real estate, trading, business, women's only events, and then so that's the B2C front. But the B2B front is companies will pay us for like marketing campaigns, data, and all that stuff, and how to target Gen Zs, or consultancy on how to target Gen Zs.
And I think maybe like for those that are not familiar with the Gen Z Club, and I should definitely recommend that you go and check it out. You know, regardless if you fit in the bracket, because that bracket is always expanding, and Gen Zs are kind of sort of scaling all the way up to almost early 30s now at this point in terms of that generational space. But you've done some amazing things. Like you just touched on having Barclays, Savills, Lloyds as sponsors. If you've ever tried to get people of that caliber of sponsors, you know that that's not something that we should just say, you know, lightly. That's a big deal. And you did that, in your late teens / early 20s, which is an amazing achievement. But why was it important for you to bring that generation together in entrepreneurial opportunities?
Yeah, I think, good question. So I think mainly because I feel like a lot of people my age have ambition and they have the right skill set, but what they just need is the right direction. And I think it's very easy when you're young, you're seeing, in uni, you're seeing like people somehow having the nicest cars, having the nicest thingy, but people, and that's why certain people go down other routes to get that type of money. So I feel like, do you know what, yeah, I was privileged to have had my mentor to teach me the right path to go down. So I would be the person, I just want to help other people as well. So I was like, okay, cool, let me provide an environment where I can get guest speakers and I can get people and I can network. And I think the power of networking, I think one of the biggest things that have helped me in my journey is networking. Like from just reaching out to people, meeting people, whether they're at the same level as me or ahead of me, it's like you just never know what can be achieved from that. And that's why from the Gen Z Club, a lot of people built businesses together. There's people who've been on like The Apprentice. A lot of people have come from like the Gen Z Club, and that's just due to the, I guess, just like breaking the possibilities that you set for yourself initially and seeing that actually, no, if I set my mind to it, there's actually a lot more can be achieved. I think sometimes people just need to see that proof of concept to know that it is possible for everyone else to do, but it's not able to do unless you actually see that from someone else. Yeah.
No, it's really good. And I think with the Gen Z Club, a lot of the time, a lot of the best businesses are born out of, meeting a demand that you felt where there was a gap. So I guess going to university and maybe not seeing that there was that space that really incubated your entrepreneurial spirit, you were then able to provide that. Yeah. Because it was something you would have wanted. Like I remember when I first set up like the PBK community, outside of not really wanting to do mentoring, I said, okay, what would I have wanted starting up and how can I help to deliver that? 100%, and I think if you are an entrepreneur and you do like want to start a business, that is often a really good starting point. Like, what do I want? And is there a way that I can help to create or foster that as an experience or as a business model to service, the wider public? Yeah,
no, I agree. I see it as like, and for anyone that's starting a business, is like, what does either yourself or society need that you can deliver at a large scale? If you tackle that and you target a specific pain point, a specific solution at a scale, many businesses can be made from that. And the good thing about businesses, the more you do it, the more opportunities will come. So I never could have imagined us doing the B2B side of things, but it wasn't until I realized, oh, wait a minute, we've got a community of thousands of Gen Zs. These companies want to target Gen Zs because that's the next generation. So now, so that the B2B model, okay, cool, we can now charge them to access the data from the Gen Z. So it's like more opportunities will come. And again, that's us solving a problem at a large scale. Do you get what I mean? And that's how you can now charge more premiums and stuff for these people. So
yeah, no, really, really good and really, really interesting. Do you know what? We're going to get onto deal sources and deal sourcing. Because I know me know that out of all the people in the property space, deal sourcers are the people that I probably need the most and frustrate me even more.
Even more, yeah.
If I'm to ask you as somebody who's now founded a deal sourcing company, but also I knew you initially as a deal sourcer, what does it take to be a good deal sourcer?
I would say the three main things. So one is specialization. So one thing that I always tell people is, and this is just like in business in general, I feel like too many people sometimes, they try to be a jack of all trades. They want to be, I want to focus on sourcing BRR deals, assisted sales, all that stuff. And it's good to have diversity, but I think initially from your first 0 to whatever number you want to give yourself, I think it's pure focus. You want to become like an expert. And the thing is, the reason I think deal sources have a bad stigma is because they're trying to source 5 different types of strategies in 5 different areas. They're not an expert. So they will assume, and as you know, like with, for example, let's say a service accommodation, it could be literally one road apart and the rates could be completely different. But because you haven't done enough due diligence on the area, you just see it as a generic rate. So I think the first thing, you need to have that specialization. Like, and the example I always give is like, if you have a back injury, would you rather go to a back specialist or a generic doctor? You'd rather go to a specialist, right? So it's like, you wouldn't be known as the go-to sourcer for a specific strategy in a specific area. I think second thing is authenticity. I think a lot of people, I think because of the way it's promoted online, just see deal sourcing as, let me just quickly make some money. And then from that, get paid. And then that leads to them not actually delivering a full service. But again, how I see it is treat every customer that all your future customers will come from that one customer. If that was the case, how would you treat them? How would you over-deliver? And that's when you can start doing like additional services. You can start, like for example with me, like when I was first starting, one thing that I used to have a lot of repeated customers because I'll source them, let's say a rent to service accommodation deal, but then I'll give them a management team, I'll give them cleaners, I'll give them that. So it's like I'm now over-delivering for them. And I think third thing is, and this is also when you're scaling, is systems. I think a lot of people see it as, if I speak to a landlord today, an agent today, that's a no. But what I do is I have like a spreadsheet, or like now it's like a CRM where I track everything. So like hundreds, even if not thousands of leads on there where we regularly retarget. I think just trying to approach deal sourcing as a business rather than a hustle, where you've got literally systems in place. We do, for example, like regular marketing campaigns, and that way you can build a stronger pipeline, better credibility, and deliver for your clients.
Listen, if you're starting deal sourcing, just run that probably like last 3 minutes back, put it on a loop and listen to that for the next 2 hours. Because what you just said in terms of specialization, in terms of having a CRM system, in terms of under promising and over delivering, in terms of knowing your numbers and treating that customer as if that is going to be how you get every other customer, is how you're going to grow. And exactly what you just said, the last thing, which I think is probably the most imperative, you can make a ridiculous amount of money being a good deal sourcer. Yeah. You can, I can confidently say I know 6-figure deal sourcers, and that's just off sourcing deals, let alone back ends and overrides and and potential JV opportunities just from strictly deal sourcing. So if you can make a salary that's potentially 3 times the average UK salary, don't look at it as if to say, it's just a quick hustle that could be your thing. That could be what you're amazing at. So be amazing at it, specialize, listen to Denzil, Mr. DJ himself, some great, really well articulated advice there when it comes to deal sourcing. And the thing I would touch on is, if you're in a space where people unfortunately have given some of the industry a bad name, it's very easy to set yourself above the rest and quickly become an expert and a go-to and almost like a household name that, I know Denzil, I know DJ Property, they source good deals. Yeah. So it's definitely a space that, you can fight the adversity of the industry to enable you to stand out and become great. So I think there's great opportunities in deal sourcing. Definitely. You just have to do it well and be able to deliver. So that's how you become a good deal sourcer. But then, and obviously your expertise in a specific area is also gonna make you a good deal sourcer. But when it comes to actually getting those deals across the line, how do you do? I think another thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is how to present a deal. Okay. Yeah. What would you say? Like, if you're, let's talk about, because you source all types of deals, right? Or you have collectively as a company. Yeah. So where do you focus? So
starting off, we started with rent-to-rent deals. Then went into more so of a buy-to-let focus. And because I've got sourcing agents that work under me, as I progress my personal self to a different strategy, I'll train someone else up to do the other strategy. So I don't really source rent-to-rent deals anymore, but there's agents under me that source it. I don't really do the traditional buy-to-let deals anymore, But now what I've more so specialized in the last year or so is like, I'm going more so into the prime market, because how I see it as well, like business is like doing big deals and small deals is the same amount of time, but you can obviously get a lot more. So let's say, for example, you're working on a £1 million deal and I'm now charging a client 2%, it would be the same amount of effort roughly if I'm doing a rent-to-rent deal and getting paid 3K. So that's what I've been transitioning to more so, where it's relocating people for like a luxury property they're renting, or on the high end if they're purchasing it, or if it's like something like a block of apartment. But to answer your question, I think when it comes to presenting a deal, I think one of the most important things I learned about sales and just business in general was about you'll kind of adapt to your customers' needs, right? So for example, so as I've been tapping into most of the prime market, you're now dealing with clients, not just like your average property investor. There might be someone from Hong Kong, or for example, today, before I met a client from Dubai, for example. It's like certain ways that they do business, just little things like handshakes or how they want to be spoken to is very important. One thing I've noticed as well is that with a lot of the people who are starting out in property, they want like a very detailed pack, which is still good, and that's what we provide. But when it comes to like these guys who are trying to invest millions, they just literally want, what's the road, what's the number, straight. So I think it's about learning how to adopt to that. But I think the most important things is, so how like the process we do is, we get obviously in a consultancy called the client, understand their goals and why, and obviously you kind of give them advice as well, because sometimes people don't necessarily know what they want to do with their money. Just see, oh, I've got 100k, I want to put it into this, but it's about, okay, why do you actually want to do that? Like, what's your actual goal from it? So kind of coming up with like an agreed solution, understanding, and you've got to be very specific, like with what they want, like, okay, cool, what area, what return, and it depends if because again, some of the properties that we source are residential as well, for them to live in rather than just like an investment property. So again, like if it's an investment, what are the figures, what return, are you high risk, low risk, what's the length of strategy you want, how long do you want your money back in? So all of these things you have to consider. I think when it comes to presenting, I can't stress enough it's due diligence, and I think people just see due diligence as just going on comparables, and comparables are good, and I use comparables, but I always say like you want real lifetime data. So one thing that I always do is, if I'm looking to look at comparables of like a rental or a purchase price, I'll call like 10 agents in the area and I'll get like enough information from all of them. I'll do checks on like property data and stuff. And that's why I think it's good to have a goldmine area, because I'll look to have like at least 10 sources I know in the area, 10 investors and 10 agents. So then I'll ask these, okay, cool, like I know you guys probably sorted on this area, like how's it doing so far? If it's an SA, I'll talk to a property manager, what's the average you can get on the worst case scenario? I'm just doing thorough due diligence, not just like a quick comparable and send it off to them. So I think that's the main thing I would say.
And I think that's what people want, because, when we talk about property, you hear that, there's a lot of common buzzwords that get thrown around, and power team is one of them.
Yeah.
And a great deal sourcer can become part of your power team, because they're bringing a specific type of knowledge bank that you don't have, because they've done the due diligence, they've called the 10 agents, they've got the local contacts, they've already sourced similar deals, they've got a track record, and they can deliver that for you, and they can save your time when it comes to going out and finding your next deal. Because I always use like when I talk about deal sources, and people say, but even if the deal was sourced through the open market, or the deal was sourced, say, look, like you got to look at it like a personal shopper.
Yeah.
You could, of course, like when, for example, Yeezys were massive and you had to like queue out the door for Yeezys, you could, of course, try and buy a ticket at a raffle, or say, I'm going to queue outside, Adidas the day of the launch. I'm going to be there from 6 a.m. and you still might not get it, but you get it at retail. But you leave that space for what if maybe, and you have to think about the value of your time. Versus if I go and pay a personal shopper that's going to deliver them maybe a 10-15% premium depending on the market, but you get that delivered to your door guaranteed, and you can spend your time focusing on what you do best. I think deal sources play an instrumental role for a very active property investor, but you need a good deal sourcer that has a specific focus.
I want to add to that as well. I think because one thing I've noticed as well is people pay for convenience, they pay for speed, and they pay for expertise, right? So when it comes to expertise, that's normally someone who's got a lot of capital, and as you mentioned, they haven't got the time or knowledge to invest in that, right? So they'll pay for a sourcer. When it comes to convenience, again, similar thing, they might not have the time to invest it. And when it comes to speed, it's more so like, okay, cool. If you know that you are an expert in that area and you can find deals on a regular basis, you can, for example, if it's a refurb deal, you're project managing, most people pay for that, right? And even like, as I've gotten old as well, I even now pay for convenience as well, because not necessarily at that scale yet, but it's mostly just little things like I'd rather pay for convenience because I know the value of time than spend my time doing that and trying to figure out myself.
Don't try and do the now I've got older, I don't pay. They don't pay for convenience. I'm not going to ask him, ask him about his barber, ask him about, where he gets his haircuts, ask him about where he gets his suits tailored. He's paying for convenience because he's taken the time to learn his craft and understand how to deliver. And I think on our side as property investors and developers, one thing I would say that we have to hold ourselves accountable for is the quality of the answer that you get is always linked to the quality of the question you ask. So if I call Denzil and say, yo, bro, you got any deals? Can send me 10.
Yeah.
And one of them might vaguely fit my parameters. But if I call Denzil and say, oh, I've got a budget of X, I'm looking in this area, I need a minimum return of this, do you have anything? He could then maybe send me 3 deals that meet that exact requirement. So when you are looking to work with deal sources, yes, there's some that are not great, but you can quickly weed out the ones that are not great by telling them exactly what you need and saying, do not phone me unless it meets this minimum criteria.
100%. No, I agree.
So I'm interested in also talking about you saying, obviously, you scaled what you do at DJ Property Solutions in that you now work with some overseas investors focusing on prime London real estate. What does that look like and what's the service that you offer?
Yeah, so 2 aspects. So, for example, one time we have sometimes clients who are, for example, relocating from, let's say, Dubai to London or Manchester to London. So they might want, for example, the client I met today before here was looking in Chelsea, wants an apartment to rent for 6 months, for example. So sometimes you do that. And again, when it comes to a sourcing fee, you can literally charge half of the month's rent as a sourcing fee. And their rent might be like 8K per month. So you can now charge 4K just to find that. But again, you're not just finding them the deal, you're getting them a good rate, you're helping them with, it's kind of like a concierge service, should I say, getting them with all the right things around them. If it's, for example, like a purchase price, someone might need to know where good local schools are and things like that as well. And I think it's just more so about looking at the deals which are more value to the market. So for example, like recently we sourced like a block of apartments, for example. This was up in Nottingham. So again, that was a premium that someone paid. And again, we're just charging a percentage of the purchase price, which is, again, same amount of work, but more revenue for us. But also we can now deliver a better service. But then we're still sourcing the other deals with our other agents under us. So.
That's nice, man. Do you know what? I'm going to look at something right now, yeah? So I just got, I'm always getting, every day, I get every day, sometimes even every hour if it's a good thing, I get opportunities sent over to me. So let me show you this. This is a deal breakdown, yeah? This is someone just sent to me. Let me know what you think of this deal. Going to get an in-person, live and direct deal appraisal. If the deal looks good, if you give me the okay, I'm going to offer on it today.
Cool.
But I need to know that whilst DJ doing that, I'm just going to quickly talk about it. I know I've mentioned it once, I've mentioned it twice, but I just want to reiterate, Denzil is 22 years old. In terms of this conversation, how well you've carried yourself, been able to articulate yourself and deliver, I think a lot of that comes from having that laser focus in terms of what you want to achieve and where you've wanted to be able to position yourself and the people that you've been around. So for those that are maybe thinking, okay, you know what, I want to be successful in property, I think, you're kind of going to have to look at emulating that model, seeing who you can be around, how you can position yourself, and then look at what the steps that you then have to take to help you get there. Now that I've given you that time to look, what do you reckon?
No, I think it's decent, but obviously there's some questions I need to know. So for example, do you know how long left on the leases of the flat?
I haven't got that there, but based on the fact that we're going to assume that it's a long lease, based on the fact that the end valuation is based on that there isn't a lease extension in that.
Yeah.
So let's assume that assuming that it's a long lease, so above 99 years.
Based on that, it's good. I think their contingency was 10%. I'll probably make it a little bit higher just because of the current market. But even if you increase that, worst case scenario, the profit is looking, let's say if I'm being worst case scenario, the profit is looking at 50,000. The comparables, I'll probably need to do more comparables just because these are from April 2023. We're now basically come to April 2024. Obviously, so it depends on that. I'm not sure how long he put the build is going to be for. So that let me see.
But I think what you should take into from what you're saying is obviously in terms of due diligence, this is effectively the process. A deal, somebody will send you out a deal, but in all intents and purposes, that document covers maybe 90% of what's required.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing to do is someone's be like, I got this deal for you. It's a 3-bedroom house in Lewisham. And it sometimes don't even send you a price. They'll just tell you it's a deal.
Yeah.
And then you have to go back and forth, and we've got to send 20 messages before we can even work out to be at a place to be able to do the numbers. If you can structure things in a way where it's very clear and concise, and I can just come back maybe with a couple of follow-up questions, a video, walk through, and say some pictures, maybe front and rear, I can very safely say, okay, I'm happy to go ahead. Tell them I'm proceedable. Here's my proof of funds. Happy to go ahead. Would like to arrange a viewing just to confirm, but we're happy to proceed. That's great for the sourcer because they know they're going to get paid. It's great for the agent because they know they're going to get paid. It's great for the landlord or the vendor because they know that they're going to receive their funds subject to completion. And it's great for us because we're going to get paid off the back end when we sell the property or refinance. So it's a win-win. 5 people make money, but those 5 people can make that money because the sourcer has done a good deal in presenting and delivering it and making sure they do the due diligence not only on the deal but also the potential investor.
That's such that's such an important point, I think, because with property you want to maintain relationships not just with the investor but with your agent and with the landlord, right? And I think what some people make the mistake of, and this is just the way I personally do it, I like to find my investor first and then find a deal for them, because I think a deal isn't a deal unless measured against the criteria. I might think HMO for 300k is a good deal, but another investor might not think it's a good deal, right? So I think the mistake people make sometimes is they'll just find a deal and try and ping it to any investor. But sometimes it does work, but what might happen is now this investor might just be a time waster. Now you're going to be letting the agent down, letting the landlord down. So it's like having that due diligence with that investor, understanding exactly their criteria and how you're going to deliver the information to them, that can save you a lot more time. Because as much as investors don't like sources, we sometimes don't like investors because it's like they can just waste time. The amount of times I've been like, yeah, Denzil, I'm gonna take this deal today. I told the agent or told the landlord the last minute, they say no. So it's like, make sure that you have the right due diligence with the investor as well. So that's a really good point that you made.
No, definitely. I think it goes both ways. Like you've always got to be considering your whole operational and deal chain, and that goes down to you do your due diligence on the person who's making the call outs to make sure they're presentable and they're maintaining those relationships, and also you do your due diligence on the potential estate agents as well to make sure they're not going to mess your investor around, because your name becomes everything, like your integrity.
100%.
And if other people don't represent you well, then they deteriorate the value of your name.
Yeah, no, facts. And it's about accountability, because I think a lot of people can easily be like, but was it me, it was this, but at the end of the day, if someone's coming to you for a service, it's your duty. And that's why I think as well, sourcing is really good, because not only are you learning how the market works, it's not only are you making good money, but you can now build up a good investor list. So for example, like, I know that when I'm going to, so there's a project that I was kind of starting in summer, but it's been a bit delayed because due to grant of probate. But I was just seeing, okay, I just tried to put up my story, see if I could raise finance on my investor list. I had like 30 people messaging me saying they would put money into the project. And that's because I feel like I built a reputation as a trusted sourcer. So a lot of people use sourcing as a means to get into BRRs and things like that. So it's like, if you're now building your investor list, people in this world have money. There's no lack of money, right? But as long as the transfer of money, just people understanding and trusting you and believing that there'll be a return on their investment. So it's like, if you can build that trust, they know that you're certain with your figures, people will be chucking money at you as long as you build that brand. So that's why I say, don't just do stuff for short-term money, because there's so many people in the industry that their names are just being scarred. That when you hear their name, people are like, nah, I'm not going to work with them. So try and always be as authentic as possible, even if you have to take a little bit of a cut to make sure that your brand's still strong.
Because if you get paid, no one's going to be... If they know that they paid DJ Property Solutions, somebody else might have messed up, but they paid you. They're looking at you for the money back, or they're looking at you on a reputation perspective. So definitely, I think, operating with integrity is, one of the cornerstones of success. For me, probably that is, if we're looking at it from a house structure, integrity is your foundation.
100%.
That's what you build off. Everything else is built off the back of your integrity. So focus on that. So what's next for yourself, for DJ Property Solutions? Yeah,
so I think as I've gotten older, I've kind of more so known the importance of focus. I feel like a lot of things that I was doing, even this time last year, I was probably juggling like 3 or 4 things, and I just now niched down to just more so focusing. So my day-to-day more so focus is on DJ Property. So I think, what's next for me, just to continue to scale it, I really want to kind of tap more so into the market of sourcing, because I wouldn't say I'm an expert at all when it comes to the prime market. I'm still learning about it. So kind of really tapping into that market more and serving for, like, I'm a football guy in it, so sourcing more so from more down the football market and stuff like that. Then I think long term, and it's funny because I always say this, I feel like I'm an entrepreneur that's in property rather than a property entrepreneur. No, I don't like property, I love property, but it's like, I'm also prefer the entrepreneurship side. So I think my thing more so is more so buying and selling businesses. Obviously I'll be building my portfolio on the side, but I think I really like getting an idea, building it from scratch to a successful business. And I think, as I mentioned to you like earlier off camera, because I have the 3 different businesses I have there for different purposes. So I think my sourcing business is more so to fund my life and to fund my investments. The rent to rent I have now with one of my friends called Nikki, and that's another person I met in uni, by the way. And that's just more so just there on the side for cash flow. If I want to expense stuff free, that's cool. And then in the Gen Z business is more so like my capital event number. So it's like, okay, cool. I know that it's a really great business. I know that in like a few years' time, if we decide to sell it, there's like a lump sum that can come to me. So I think it's just about using the business for different means. But obviously, you never know what things will happen in the next 3 years. But I think my main thing right now is just to stay as focused as I can, deliver a good service, and just expand my brokerage, be known as like go-to sourcer for, I guess, luxury deals in London.
And for me, I guess, I don't know, because you haven't really touched on this, but do you think you would get into like more developments and investments, or is that not really something you want to focus on?
Do you know?
Because I just see it like, look, like my thing is always like very visual. If you, like you said, when you started out, you saw that guy who had a massive amount of like money and he was a property investor.
Yeah.
If you're now actively all the time sourcing, for example, particularly maybe if you transition more into flip models of sourcing, where you're seeing people that are taking these deals and delivering great returns, I think it's hard not to get drawn in and being like, all right, because all the great deals are going to come across your desk. And as you build up your own personal wealth, why give them to somebody else when you can do some of them in-house as well?
I think there's two different things for that. So I think one thing is when it comes to obviously the returns on flips, I think it's really, really good. But I generally think the most amount of money that can be made is through businesses. And I feel like I've got a lot of friends who are like in the agency space, they're in like, they have like tech businesses. And when I see the amount of money that they can make from that, I think it's just like, you have so much money that you can just dump it into property. Like you don't even need to worry about, because I've got a lot of friends who are doing flips and they're killing it, but I see the amount of headache they go for, like, and it's still good profit. Like 40k profit is amazing. Like it's amazing profit. But I also have same type of friends who are putting in not minimal work, but decent amount of work into their business, and they might be making that per month in profit. Do you get what I mean? So I think that's why I've always been like more so into business, but no, long term definitely property. But I think
so. Property for you, then you sort of more see as
preservation,
like your exit strategy of like go and invest in businesses, have that, you know, that 10, 100x experience, take that, you know, capital injection, and then have a passive income off the back end. You reinvest in property.
Yeah, I think it's more so I think it's more so like preservation. I think as well with me, and I think long term, I think I'll probably just be like buying portfolios. Not that I don't like the whole, and that's another thing about specialization. I don't really specialize in sourcing BRR and flip deals. I've probably done maybe one or two in my whole time of sourcing. So that's not really my specialization as well. So it's like, it's not like I've got loads of BRR deals on my table type of thing anyway. So if someone comes to me for BRR, I'll put them in touch with one of my sources that I work with and whatever. So yeah, that's another thing I'll say.
No, I think you're very right. And I think if you actually look at the makeup of some of the largest UK landlords, you know, they're actually people that exited very successful businesses that then reinvested into property. I think Alan Sugar's a great example of that, and there's loads of other ones. I think you're a man that really seems like you've got everything figured out. Wish you all the best. Before I let you leave, what advice would you give to somebody, and you've gave a lot of great advice, it can be more general, but just somebody that is an entrepreneur but's maybe struggling at the moment, any hints or tips that you could give them?
Yeah, I think my main thing is one, mindset. Business is 80% mindset, 20% skills. So what I touched on earlier, you got to become the type of person that wants that success. So what rooms are you going to put yourself in? Like if you, obviously, some people have grown up in poor backgrounds or whatever, but it's like, how are you going to now put yourself in environments, or from what you listen to what you surround yourself with, where you can expand your mindset and know what's possible. Second thing is like network with like crazy. Third thing is never think you're too big to learn. Always be learning from anyone and everyone. Fourth, I think when you choose something, stick to it. I think a lot of people, they will stick to something for maybe like a month. It doesn't work. Like I feel like we need to get used to sticking to something for at least 1 or 2 years. That's my goal. If you're doing something for 1 or 2 years consistently with enough volume, you'll see some type of progress. And once you become consistent, I think you got to practice becoming an expert. Like actually learn the hustle inside out, do your 10,000 hours, and then just always see like what problem are you solving? Like what problem are you solving in your marketplace? How can you differentiate? And there's nothing wrong with copying. Like you can copy a successful business model. Like even like me coming into the prime real estate, I copied a model from America and I'm trying to now adapt it into the UK market. So copy, but then also have your own unique selling point. Think, okay, cool, what is lacking? And I think the main thing after that is just being consistent, learning, adapting when you need to adapt.
I think that's
that's probably it. Yeah.
Great advice. For those people that want to connect with you, because I'm sure a lot of people that watch this and want to connect with you, maybe come to the Gen Z event and other things that you are doing, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so my personal Instagram's _Denzil Jones. The Gen Z Club is the.Gen Z Club. I'm not sure when this is out, but we've got a real estate conference end of April.
So you got headline speaker there, you know.
Headline
So,
speaker,
you know what I mean?
Kazy's on the panel. I'm one of the panels. And then if you want to come for property deals as well, DJ Property _ Solutions on Instagram. So yeah.
It's amazing. We appreciate having you on. I definitely recommend connecting with Denzil. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I know I say that each and every week, and I know some of you are watching this and still haven't subscribed. So before I say anything, do that right now. Apart from that, like this video, comment. We'll be back each and every week with an amazing guest. So we'll see you real soon.